Boy, did he earn it this weekend.
They are stunned. I think the Duke people are stunned. They are shocked. They normally, as you look right there, they normally...
Well, how old is that young boy? What is he, 5?
In the days of kings and queens, I was a jester. Treat me like a god, or they treat me like a leper. You see me move back and forth between both. I'm trying to find a balance, I'm trying to build a balance. In the days of kings and queens, I was a jester. Treat me like a god, or they treat me like a leper. You see me move back and forth between both. I'm trying to find a balance. I'm trying to find a balance, I'm trying to build a balance. I'm trying to find a balance, I'm trying to build a balance. I'm trying to find a balance, I'm trying to build a balance. I gotta find my balance, I gotta find my balance. Now all my friends are famous. See the one thing or another. Y'all don't know.
So Connor, this year obviously tough Super Bowl. I mean, there's no denying that, no debating that. But obviously, get the last laugh over a lot of people up here, myself included, on
For
the
one.
AFC Championship. Exactly. But I picked up the paper that week, and it's something I don't normally do.
Right.
When I picked up the paper that week, there was an article by yourself, and it was about the art of being a fanhood. It really caught my eyes, and talking to me about that a little bit, because that's such a. Obviously we're wearing our jerseys. We've seen our fair share of heartbreak, but
Absolutely.
What was it that brought this to you? Because this is such an idea that everybody feels, but nobody really wants to talk about it.
You're staring in the face of the defeat that I did when the Broncos got routed by the Seahawks, and I kind of you look at it two different ways. You say, obviously, my team didn't perform the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
But it made me reflect on the fact that there's always next season, and not only that, but you're feeling the same way that I'm feeling the same way every team in the AFC did.
The beauty of it is, you go with the team during the game, and it's such a unique feeling. And I remember Super Bowl weekend, how amped up you were for it, and then just like the text messages you sent me after Peyton Manning's botched snap, and it was just you went with the team. And obviously, look at the jerseys we're wearing. You got a LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers jersey. I got an Edmonton Oilers jersey on. That's got to be a low moment, but the lowest moment for me, and I'll never forget it. I've actually never watched the clip until about 2 days ago now, where it was game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals, 2006, and the Oilers were the 8th seed, and they had no business in getting to the first round. They got to the Stanley Cup Championship. They were playing Carolina, and things were going so well. And then their own defenseman pushes one of the Hurricanes forwards into the goalie's leg, and he blows out his knee, and he was the whole reason why they were there. And the backup goalie comes in, and I'll never forget Bob Cole's call. A turnover behind the net, and I'll just never forget Rod Brennan was wrapping it around after the goalie left it there, and he scored the game-winning goal, and they lost in 7 games. And it's just thinking, if they just had that goalie, and I was 12 at the time, devastated post-game. And my dad came in and was like, "Hey, Dwayne Olsen tore his ACL. He's done for the season." It's just that moment of this defeat. It's got to be the lowest point I've ever had as a fan. And it was rooting for these guys. It was just something, and I did not watch the clip of that game until we went through the process of this documentary, and that was the first time I watched the clip. It killed me, and I couldn't watch for 2 or 3 years that Stanley Cup Finals. And there's got to be there's a moment like that for everybody.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the beauty of fanhood, and that was kind of something that hit me when I was writing the article. We all have the highs and we all have the lows. The most interesting part is normally us diehard fans, we ride through the lows so that the highs are as rewarding as possible. And like you said, hearing that from you, that's awesome. We all have those moments as fans. Look at the jersey I'm wearing. If anything screams diehard fan, it's not the name on the back of the jersey, it's the one on the front.
That's got to be such a low moment. The thought process behind that's got to be your lowest moment as a fan of any team, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the only thing that comes close to that maybe is the 4-game sweep against the Spurs in the finals when I was on the edge of my bunk bed.
Yeah.
TV remotes were broken that night. Hearts were broken that night. It was tough, but you're right. Nothing as a fan is more demeaning than what LeBron did with the decision.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron? What's your decision?
In this fall, man, it's very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
You know, it's one thing. It's one thing to leave.
Yeah.
It's one thing to leave,
Yeah.
but to make a spectacle of it and then go and do what he did with the supergroup with D Wade and Chris Bosh, it's just not cool as a fan.
And you know, it's so funny that you have that moment, because I'll never forget after that 06 Cup run, 2 days later, Chris Pronger comes out and says, "I want out," and he makes a public spectacle of it, and he gets traded, and the team has not played in the playoff game since, and it's going to be 8 years this spring.
So you know how it feels.
Yeah, it's such a low feeling. And I'll never forget the night I watched the decision. It was a summer between my sophomore year and my junior year of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that's got to be such a terrible moment if you're a Cleveland fan. I can only imagine. But you know what the awesome part about this is you know, we live and die by our team. Like October this year, I was so excited for the Oilers season starting. This is the year we're gonna get back in the playoff hunt. It's April now, and when they had that terrible start, I think they won 5 of their first 22 games.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the point where it got down to I was miserable every time. Like I would come home, I check the standings or something, and it'd just be miserable. I can imagine it's the same way with the Cavs. But you know what the awesome part is?
What's that?
We're not alone. We're not alone.
Exactly.
There's so many different fans around the world, and not just around the world, but in this little world we live in here at Springfield College. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
There are some awesome stories.
We're like the Verizon guys.
Exactly.
We got people behind us.
Exactly. And some of those people, they're pretty interesting to me.
Oh, absolutely.
Candace Tibbetts, Indianapolis Colts.
Andrew Hedgeland, Green Bay Packers.
Jordan Hersom, Notre Dame Fighting Irish, play like a champion today.
Logan Mullen, Boston Red Sox. Chris Trainer, New York Knicks, the New York Knicks.
Billy Peterson, Philadelphia Flyers.
Nick Lovett, Baltimore Ravens.
Alex Barton, and no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Hunter Julius, Buffalo Sabres.
The worst one was a combination of two, same game, less than 4 plays apart. It was the Ravens against the Patriots in the 2011 AFC Championship. You're just kind of, watching the Ravens drive all the way down the field, and you think first down from the 18, they're going to score. There's no way they can't score here. Worst comes to worst, they get a field goal, they tie the game. Flacco throws a really nice ball to Lee Evans. Lee Evans was a pickup, sure-handed receiver from Buffalo. He gets the ball knocked out of his hands, would have been the game right there. And then, Billy Cundiff, really, really good place kicker, was really good all year. Shanked a 32-yarder. Patriots held on. Patriots won the game. They ended up going to the Super Bowl.
The one moment that was probably the hardest for me being a Colts fan is when they let Peyton Manning go. And that was a really tough moment. And I probably won't forget that. I still miss him. I love Andrew Luck, but Peyton Manning, I grew up with him.
This moment was growing up in 2003. I guess I was 9 at the time, and it was when Aaron Boone hit that shot off of Tim Wakefield in the ALCS. And I was a kid, so I wasn't staying up that late to watch the game until midnight. So the absolute worst feeling was going to bed when the game was still kind of in the balance / the Red Sox were looking pretty good. And then I wake up the next morning, and the first thing I ask my mom is, how did the Red Sox do? And she goes, well, they lost. And so that was easily the low point of my Red Sox fan career.
2005 in South Bend versus USC. Winning the whole game, USC was ranked number 1. Comes down to the last play of the game. Notre Dame's up by 3, and Reggie Bush pushes Matt Leinart into the end zone on a QB sneak. So could have been a flag, but questionable call, and USC walks out of the stadium as still number 1, and I was pretty upset.
Worst moment, there have been a few. I would say bad angle goal, Game 6, Stanley Cup 2010, when we're at highest of highs just a few weeks ago, and then that arguably lowest of lows from my lifetime. That was, TV's almost broke for that one.
I mean, other than this year, it was probably seeing both Chris Drury and Daniel Briere part ways with the Buffalo Sabres after the great couple years they've had, almost making the Stanley Cup in 2006, where they lost to the eventual Stanley Cup champions, the Carolina Hurricanes, and then 2007, them losing, I think it was about Game 6 to the Ottawa Senators, where they lost to the eventual champions, Anaheim Ducks. So just seeing those two players who I pretty much grew up, and they pretty much got me to become a Buffalo Sabres fan, especially Chris Drury. I'm a huge Boston University fan as well. But yeah, just seeing those two split because Buffalo is such a small market, it was really devastating.
The worst moment from what I can remember would have to be the day that the whole Starberry situation started to happen. Probably that whole era after that was probably the worst combined moment as a Knicks fan that I could possibly think of. He had so much hype going into the season with Starberry and the rest of them, and obviously you all know the rest. It was a big letdown.
But the lowest I can think of was the last time we had to make the chance to make the playoffs, 2003. We were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, Week 17 at home. That was when Drew Bledsoe was there. And Pittsburgh already clinched the playoffs. So they played their backup quarterback, and we still found some way to lose. And ever since then, and ever since 1999, we have not made the playoffs. So that was one of the lowest moments I can remember out of the many.
I've been a Colt for almost all of my adult life. But I guess in life and in sports, we all know that nothing lasts forever. Times change, circumstances change, and that's the reality of playing in the
It's the jumper, and it's come the other way. Houston spotting up again. Now Houston after this is the first more shots. That's breaking down Houston. That was an excellent job. On his position, but Hardaway recovered nicely. They're off now. And Hardaway gets Nash back in the 8th inning, leading by 3 as Burrow hits it to deep left. That might send the Yankees to the World Series.
It's so cool to see other people in their low moments, and you know the thing that really strikes me about all these people is they're all different teams.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just Boston, New York. We got Cleveland, we got Western Canada, we've got Buffalo, we've got Indianapolis, we got Baltimore. I mean, there's such an array of. We got Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many different fan bases on campus, and and everybody's got their own story. But we talked about the LeBron decision and the Rod Brethmore goal in Game 1.
Right.
But there's always something the opposite end of the spectrum. And I will never forget the same series of the Stanley Cup. And the series was 3-1, Carolina. Mm-hmm. And my dad was a Hartford Whalers fan, and he ended up following them when they went down to Carolina. Mm-hmm. And he was home for 3 of the 4 games of that series. Games 1, 2, and 4. And he was working as an officer at the time at Northeastern University. All right. And Carolina won all 3 of those games. The one game he wasn't home for was Game 3. Edmonton won that. So they weren't home. He wasn't home for Game 5. So that's something I think was like, okay, we win Game 5, I'll play Game 6.
Yeah.
The door opens in the second period, and his partner let him go early. So he comes walking in, and I was so mad, and I'll never forget that. Just flipping out, like, how can you come home? How can you do this, and that? And then, and Carolina took the lead, and this is it. They had Stanley out of the box, and they were polishing him, and then Edmonton ties the game, and they're going overtime. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the Oilers were on a penalty kill. And Bob Coles, they got time to kill now, folks. Time to kill now.
Killing some time. They have time to kill now, folks. Time to kill now. Overtime, power play, Carolina. Moving out. Brindamore at the far side. That's broken. Here's a break. It is Pisani. Scores! A short-handed goal for Pisani in the Edmonton Oilers. Come out of the box, or out on the ice. And they are celebrating a huge win here tonight in Raleigh, North Carolina. Can you believe it?
It's funny you bring up you remembering exactly where you were, because I remember exactly where I was when the Cavs got their high moment, and it's right after LeBron leaves, they get the first pick in the NBA draft, and they go with Kyrie Irving.
With the first pick in the 2011 NBA draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select Kyrie Irving from Duke University.
He had a short stint at Duke, but look at how he panned out now. And not only that, on top of his pick where he got taken.
Yeah.
Out of the last some odd years, 4 years, the Cavs have had 2 number 1 picks. Obviously, this year they took Anthony Bennett. Not as good as Kyrie,
Right.
but like you said, it's always the promise of next season.
Yeah.
The promise. I mean, I'm in a little bit of turmoil now because Kyrie may want out of Cleveland, may not. That's another interesting aspect of fanhood. But the fact that there's always next season and there's always a bright spot, it really gets you through those low spots.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like watching the Oilers now, I mean, they get smoked almost routinely now. End of the year, bad team, a lot of injuries now. So, but there's always a thought, well, the draft's coming in June, and then free agency comes, and then there's a fresh 82-game slate.
Exactly.
And maybe, just maybe, it's the year. And we've got 2 organizations, and you can't script this, that are just so similar since the 2000s.
They're the equivalent.
Exactly. So it's just
Cleveland is the Edmonton of the NBA world.
Exactly.
And vice
it's
versa.
Just, there's history on the Edmonton side from the Gretzky days, but since the mid '90s, they've been pretty similar.
Absolutely.
So, but we talk about those high moments, but everybody's got their low moment, but everybody's got their high moment, and that's the awesome part about having that array of fans is they also have their high moments too.
Absolutely.
When they won in 2010 against the Steelers, it was bittersweet because going into that season or going into a few seasons before then when Favre was leaving, but we all saw the type of player Aaron Rodgers turned out to be, and them making that run in 2010 off the wild card season was like kind of was with the dark horse to that run.
I've been out to South Bend like 3 times, so every time I go out there, it's like a great experience. I've been out there twice for 2 games, and just being a part of the atmosphere. I've seen a basketball game out there too. So it's just the whole campus, I guess, and embracing everything. The student body is great, and go Irish, I guess.
Highest point was probably when they won the World Series most recently. I think in 2004, it was definitely a huge moment, but it wasn't, I guess when you put it in the context, it wasn't as huge as it was for people that were pretty advanced in years. For me, it was just, I'm 10 years old, and it's pretty cool to see my team win the World Series. 2007 was a little anticlimactic, mainly because they swept a pretty uninspired Colorado Rockies team. And this year is just being in an environment in Massachusetts instead of Texas, where I can actually experience it firsthand, and just that environment and watching the last out with other Red Sox fans that weren't just family was a pretty incredible experience.
Funny enough, it was just 2-3 weeks before the lowest of lows, down 3-0 at Boston. All my friends obviously growing up in Massachusetts, all ragging on me. Then just a few days later, we come back, win 4 straight, come down from Game 7 from down 3-0. That for me, even more than making it to the Cup itself, knocking out the hometown team, and just the remarkable story behind the comeback, making the playoffs on the last day of the year on a shootout, which we're historically not successful in, and then coming back, doing the improbable, beating Boston, and the run obviously didn't end with a cup, but knocking out Boston was a great moment for me. Making my friend wear my Flyers jersey around school the next day was another part of it that just made that best moment of my Flyers life. Hopefully better ones to come later on.
Yeah, definitely the 2012-2013 season when the Ravens won the Super Bowl. I think almost as big as the Super Bowl win was for me was beating the Patriots in the AFC Championship. Obviously, being a Ravens fan from New England, you get your fair share of jives thrown at you because all your friends are New England fans. But getting past them in the AFC Championship was kind of revenge for the previous year, and then really getting through the whole Super Bowl, which was pretty tough. You go out to this huge lead, and then the lights go off. 49ers come back, and then holding on to the very end, and that wasn't pass interference on Jimmy Smith. Getting through that, that's definitely the highest moment for me being a Ravens fan.
The best moment where I've been a fan for, I would definitely say getting into the finals, Allen Houston going from the 8th seed, making all the way up. I wasn't like a real big Knick fan at the time when that happened. I was still very young. But from what I remember, I would say that was definitely up there. And probably recently, if I had to pick one, I would say the whole Jeremy Lin phenomenon thing. That was pretty cool to be a part of.
The highest moment would be 2 years ago when we finally beat Belichick and Brady. It was a long road, many losses. And just after 8 seasons, 9 seasons of losing to them constantly, when we finally beat them, it felt like you won the Super Bowl. So that was a great feeling to finally beat Belichick and Brady.
I remember I was really young when we won the 2007 Super Bowl against the Bears, but I remember that just being awesome. I remember my dad like being really excited and like picking me up like when we won, and I remember I had my Colts jersey on that like went down to my knees because he got me like amends. So I remember that was awesome. That was like a lot of fun. And then definitely this past season when we beat the Chiefs in the playoff game, first round. That was incredible because I remember sitting there with my dad and I don't even remember anymore. I think we were down by like 30 points in the half and we're like, this is over. This is over. And then I just remember we were like, you know what, we're going to stick it out anyway. We're going to watch the end of the game. It's playoff. It's our team. We can't just quit like right now. We watched the game and that was probably the most incredible game I've ever seen in my life.
Just seeing how great this team is, considering how small the budget they have to work with and how much they've achieved. I mean, they made the Stanley Cup in '99. They've been in the playoffs numerous years. I mean, past couple of years haven't been so great. But even when they had the smaller cap, they were still doing great things with building great dynamics. They were kind of playing what the Oakland Athletics did. They were playing kind of money ball, getting players who could fit well with each other, and they were just building on chemistry.
Buffalo has a chance to kneel down, and they take time off the clock with 3 seconds left to win the game. Ryan Lindell nails it. The Bills snap a 15-game losing streak with the win over the Patriots.
Shifting gears for Leno. Mike Richards through the seam, deflected stop. Gagne! He scores! Opportunistic. Flyers celebrate Simon Gagne.
If you're a Boston Bruin fan out there right now, you're thinking 1979. Too many men on the ice against the Montreal.
Boston stronger than ever. The Red Sox are the World Series champions. Took a shot. Rebound, we score.
Talking about the downs and the ups. Obviously, over the course of all of that, there's a sense of loyalty, there's a sense of pride that comes with loving these teams. I mean, look at my resume. I don't like a single team from New England. Denver Broncos, Cleveland Cavaliers, Chicago Cubs. You know, it's tough, but being from New England and not representing a single team from New England, there's a sense of being your own person.
Yeah.
It reflects on that wholeheartedly, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm obviously a big Patriots guy, a big Red Sox guy, and those are the teams I grew up with, and obviously had both those passed down. But with hockey, it really became my own unique thing, and I take so much pride in being an Oilers fan because the team's terrible, and they've been terrible now for 8 years. But when I'm at home, people know he's an Oilers fan. They know people know who the Oilers are because you're an Oilers fan. We know about them, and it's funny because I've got friends from all over the place, back home and who are doing their own thing now that know who the Oilers are, and that's it. I mean, that's my team.
Yeah.
I live and die with that team. I mean, I shell out the money every year to watch that team, and I take pride in just representing this logo, this colors. It's all that stuff. There's such a sense of pride behind it, and it's such a cool thing. But another thing to go along with the pride is riding on that roller coaster with the team, because we've both seen ups and downs. I mean, we've both seen trips to the championship. We've both seen #1 overall picks. We've been at the valley. We've been at the peak. We haven't been to the ultimate peak yet, but we've been pretty darn close. And
progress.
How special is that to ride along on that journey?
It's a crazy journey. It's a lot like life in general. But what's interesting is how many similarities there are. Like I told you in the finals when Cleveland got swept, I was sitting in a very specific spot.
Yeah.
I was sitting in that same spot on the opposite end when Cleveland landed the number 1 pick, and I jumped out of that seat a lot opposite of the way I sank into it when they were swept.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see things like that. And like you mentioned, people know who you are. People know that you're affiliated to that team. When you're one of some odd people who are here in this area, and Cleveland ends up winning their title, and Edmonton ends up winning their title, we're going to be one of the few people who are here, and they're going to be like, oh, Cleveland won the title. Connor must be amped. Edmonton won the title. Alex has to be happy. It's things like that.
Exactly. I mean, like, I'll never forget that spring of 2006. They went in as the 8th seed and they played Detroit, and I'll never forget the analysts saying, we joke about a team will lose in 3 games. Analysts are literally, they're just going to want to quit after 3 games. And for them to win, it was the night before my birthday. They won in Game 6, and my 12th birthday, they knocked out Steve Yzerman in the Red Wings. And I'll never forget sneaking out of my room during the triple overtime, Game 3 of Round 2. Sean Horkoff wins the game at like 3:30 in the morning. I got middle school. I got to be up at like 7, like 6:50, 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
But like it's that emotional how you roll on with the team, and now it's 5 straight years with the top 5 pick, and it's tough. It takes a toll, and it's just it stinks. But everybody goes on the trip.
I think that's what makes it so much better. That's what makes the high so much better is when you're with the team. And me, it's been a bit of a weird situation because in my lifetime they've missed the playoffs only twice, but in all the times that they've been in the playoffs, they've never actually won the ultimate prize, which is the Stanley Cup. So yes, we've had a lot of success, but it's always ended in some bitter disappointment and even some circumstances heartbreak. But I think that down the road, if I am fortunate enough to witness a Flyers Stanley Cup, I think that going through the ups and downs will make that moment so much more better.
For several years in a row, 3 or 4 years in a row, they were 6-6 with the football program. With Mike Bray in basketball, they've been pretty steady, but like you just touched upon, last year was pretty magical, the run to the national championship. But yeah, every year, the ups and downs, just got to roll with the punches and move forward. So.
You look at the seasons, and they may not be terrible from season to season. Some seasons are disappointments because the Ravens are so used to, the successful nature of their team, where they don't miss the playoffs very often. But you get a season like this year, where you just don't have a great year. Flacco has an off year. Ray Rice doesn't average more than 3 yards a carry, which is terrible. But you kind of look at the silver lining of, hey, we'll get a better draft pick, and we'll be able to get a better team next year. So you definitely have to weather the ups and downs, because there's always going to be a silver lining. There's always going to be another season. There's always going to be that one draft pick that could turn your franchise around. So while this year wasn't the greatest, I have high hopes that next season will be better. So you have to weather the highs and the lows just so you can get to that ultimate high of winning the Super Bowl again.
Right now, of course, it's a really dark moment, just seeing how low it is. But it's going to feel so much better when the team is at its high again, knowing that I stuck through. You can quit at any time when things get rough. Anyone can quit, but it's the people who stick with it. It just feels so much more rewarding knowing that you stuck with it through the dark times, and it just feels so much more rewarding.
Absolutely, especially like we were just talking about, when your team loses, you're upset. When your team wins, you're excited. You feel for the players, even though you're not there with them or experiencing with them. You're like thousands of miles away. I'm sitting on my couch in New York, they're in Indianapolis, but I still feel that.
Without a doubt, last year during the playoffs, I was pumped up. First time winning the playoff series, and now this year we had so much expectation, and obviously it's not working out too well. So going down with them, but sticking with them, that's what it counts.
Oh yes, I do. I follow the team constantly, as you know, and like the whole thing now between our owner passing away and Bills don't know if they're going to be playing there or somewhere else. So that's always a tricky part as a fan. Jim Kelly, the team's biggest player, athlete, biggest face of the team, having cancer right now. That's tough, obviously, for the fans to dissect. And I've just been along the roller coaster the whole time, and I know unless they move, I'll always be a diehard Bills fan.
I live and die with them. I vividly remember in 2005 when they got bounced by the White Sox, going back and crying for a little bit in my room. I was 11 years old. I was definitely beyond the point where I should have been crying about it, but I didn't care. Like, I lived and died with the team. To be a true fan, you have to, love them when they're at their best and, love them when they're at their worst. And that's something that Theo Epstein used to do. He wouldn't react whether, they just hit a great game-winning grand slam or if they just got shut out 15-0. He said, because if you show emotion for one thing, you have to show it for the other. It's a little different as a fan, but it's kind of the same context that you have to be with them on both sides.
I take so much pride. I mean, there's almost a day that doesn't go by where I'm not wearing some sort of Flyers apparel on campus, whether it's a hat, sweatshirt, T-shirt, headphones. I have Flyers headphones. I mean, there's almost never a day where I'm not wearing something Flyers, and if it's not Flyers, it's another Philadelphia team. But I just love showing people around this area that I am a Flyers fan, and yes, it does turn some heads sometimes, but it's just something I love.
I really don't have any relation to Notre Dame. I kind of just grew up. My dad and my family were Notre Dame fans, so I didn't really know anyone that went there, part of my family. But I consider myself like a true fan. I'm not one of those guys that just wears Notre Dame stuff around because it's common and whatnot, like the America's college or whatever. But I would, definitely, I take pride in it.
Growing up, being from New England, I never really had a favorite team. Then the Ravens, it seemed like all my favorite players were with them. So, being loving a team, just following them every single year. Every single day, I'm going back to my room, looking at mock drafts. Trying to figure out, okay, situation A, this is who the Ravens are going to pick. B, worst case scenario. But I think that's what makes it so fun, is that you get to go with the the ups and downs of the team, and I definitely take pride in being a Ravens fan because they have a really successful history, and hopefully they can keep that success going forward.
I do. I mean, not too many of us are here in Boston, so it gets a little complicated, especially when you're going to that venue. There's a lot of testosterone going there. But I mean, I like rooting for my team, and I mean, it's always good when, especially my team wins, I can get my day. But I mean, it is just a little odd being a Buffalo Sabre fan here in Boston, but I guess that makes it even more worthwhile, is when we do win, I can just take that moment.
I love the Colts. I love that I'm from New York and I love the Colts because it makes me different. I'm not a New Yorker that likes the Giants or the Jets or the Buffalo Bills.
Without a doubt, and I take pride in New York's Knicks because they're from New York. It's my city. Got to represent the city, and that's what they do.
It's weird because people don't think that because they're bad every year. But it's cool, being the only Bills fan. Nobody knows any Bills fans. It's just pretty much me, And I just take pride in that, and I always feel proud wearing my colors, and it's always cool to support a team that no one else likes. I'm not a typical Patriots, Giants, Jets, Ravens fan. I'm just a Bills fan. I'm all by myself. So it's a cool feeling to have that, and I take it pride, yeah.
Oh, of course I do. I was definitely an outlier in high school as far as fans were concerned because they were either casual Astros or Rangers fans or not even fans at all. So to be kind of, unique in that way made me incredibly proud.
Yeah, I mean, the history, with Lambeau Field and all that and Vince Lombardi is just, history that everyone can appreciate, much like the Pittsburgh Steelers and the historic franchises. So Green Bay is one of those franchises, and I'm proud to be a cheesehead for sure.
And here's the thing, we hear people going on about going on the roller coaster, and so many people said, "Oh, it's just sports, don't worry about it." But look, you can't let it affect your life. I mean, that's just. But it's almost like everybody's got that sports team and they're a part of them, and there's more people than not that are like that I've met. In general, you can pick any person. Whether it was high school or college or family, they've got that one team that identifies with them. And they don't let it run their lives or anything like that. But they're a part of them. That team is. The Oilers are always a part of me. The Cavs are always a part of you. But the way I look at it, being a fan, people that just say it's just an extracurricular activity. I think it's a little more than that. And being a fan it's not what meets the eye. It's almost like your own separate athletic religion almost. It's something just like that.
Oh, absolutely. And what I like to think is it absolutely affects your character, and it absolutely builds your identity. It builds a lot of traits that are good in human nature. You have it builds a great sense of loyalty, and it takes you on a journey that shows how far you're going to go to stick by something that you love. And what I define fanhood as, you go hard every single day for your team like you were on the court, and you ride the highs and you ride the lows, and no matter what, you stick it out, because in the end you're going to be rewarded.
I almost feel like being a fan is kind of like a microcosm of life.
It definitely is.
Because you're going to have lows and highs of your life. You're going to have jobs you love, you're going to have jobs you hate, you're going to have moments where you don't think you're going to bounce back, and you're going to have moments where you think you're invisible. And in sports, it's almost like that. I mean, in 2007, up until the Super Bowl, I felt the Patriots were an invincible team, and it was so cool to see. And then you have moments where you don't think the Oilers will ever recover after 5 years of that. And it's just, you're in the peaks, you're in the valleys, and it's just like life. I think that's the thing. It's more than just a game to a lot of people, and it's cool. And you think sometimes, am I crazy? Because I mean, we've all thought that. Am I crazy to think this? But it seems like more people than not feel that way. It really is like a microcosm of life.
Days of kings and queens, I was a jester. Treat me like a god, or they treat me like a leper. You see me move back and forth between both. I'm trying to find a balance, I'm trying to build a balance. In the days of kings and queens, I was a jester. Treat me like a god, or they treat me like a leper.